Hi, welcome to 2020 Tasty Treats, and we're doing the house sampler blocks this time. So as you can see, we're getting quite a few blocks made. These are the houses. This is a diagram of all of the 20 blocks that we're making, and we've already done quite a few blocks. We've done 12 already, so this is block 13, and this one is the one we're doing today. And so if you've already signed up on GourmetQuilter.com to get the patterns, then you will have a pattern that looks like this, and it's going to tell you about the cutting and how to put the block together, as well as me showing you how to put the block together. So I've gone ahead and cut my patches out already, and I've found that I have to mark the back of some of my squares with a diagonal line, which I've mostly done. I've got one more to do here. These are a little bit smaller than some of our other squares, so I'm not saving the other half. You could if you wanted to, but that does make them amazingly small. So for me, that is beyond what I felt I could do. So to get back onto the block, we've got a centre square. So on the block here, we've got the centre square, and we need to put some triangles around on the corners. On this first round, we start in the middle. So I've got my centre square here, and I've got my squares here with a diagonal marked on them. So what we're going to do is position two of those in opposite corners, and then stitch on the diagonal line, and then trim away the corners and press them. So I'll go ahead here and stitch those on. And the other one. Then I'm going to trim those corners off. So just trimming 1/4 inch away from the join at the seam line. So we just put the 1/4 inch in line right over the sewing and trim away the little corner. And then I'm going to press those. So I'm going to press the seams into the triangle. And we've already got two corners on. That didn't take so long. So now we need to repeat that same process with the other two corners. So we've got two more squares here with their diagonals marked. So we position them over the top, and they should overlap the corners of the triangles that we've already just sewn on. So we just need to sew those and trim off the triangles and press those out again. So I'll go ahead and do that and show you when I get there. So I've gone ahead and sewn my other two triangles on, so I'm just pressing those seams again into those corners, into the triangles, and there we have it. We have now our centre square already made. How cool is that? So we're going to put some other triangles on now. So we've done this centre little bit here. We need to put these ones on here. So we could do the same thing again and put squares and things on to flip them over, but I think what we'll do is we've already cut some squares out. We need to cut those in half, so I'm going to just lay them together, and we're going to cut them this time in half into triangles already. So, and what we want to do now is we're going to position these on the sides and sew them as triangles. So we just have to be careful now, because that edge that we've just cut is a little bit stretchy because it's on the bias of the fabric. So just be careful not to stretch things out as you go. And I'm just going to position that so we know where the halfway point is. You could mark the halfway point on your triangle with a little finger press if you wanted to, and that should match up with where that seam intersects there. So that could go like that. It should also, the point should be lining up with this point, like visually sort of in that same direction as that one there. And so we can sew that one on there, and we might go ahead and do that. And then I'll just press that and show you the next stage as well. So quite similar to what we've just done. I'm pressing that seam into that triangle again. And now we're going to do the opposite side again. So exactly the same thing. It's easiest to work in opposites, and then we can continue on. I'll go ahead and do this, and then we do this exactly the same thing with these opposite two sides. So just make sure your points look like they're all lining up. Make sure that this little finger pressed line here lines up with your points, so that when that's there, it's all in the center. So you should have little corners sitting a little bit beyond at each end of the seam. So that all helps with everything else sitting together well. So I'll go ahead and get my triangles on, because they're all done the same way now. So I've gone ahead and put my other triangles on, and I'm just pressing that now. And now we do need to just trim this block a little bit. It tends to want to just go slightly off, and we've got these little rabbit ears that are sticking out, which are not particularly helpful. So really it is pretty much the right size. We just want to trim it up so that it is sitting nice and square. So it is the right size. So I'm just going to trim off really just those little ears, and just to make sure those edges are nice and straight. So I've done the two sides. I'm going to turn that around, and I'm going to do the other two sides. Make sure everything's looking nice and square, and it's looking pretty good. So just trim off these little whiskers and ears. And so there's the next stage of our block. So we've now got this piece done here. So we're doing pretty well. We've just got to do the same thing pretty much again now, but with these larger squares of this background fabric. So just the same as we've done on this round that we've just put on, we just need to cut these in half now and put them on in exactly the same way. So we've got them cut in half diagonally. Again, that edge could be stretchy, so just be careful with that. Do a little finger press line so that you know where the center is, so that it sits over the little join at the intersect there, and that should also be sticking out at each end. And you can go ahead and get the two opposite sides ready and sew them on, or do them one at a time as you please. They should overlap evenly in the middle there, and so it's just sewing those seams again and then putting the other two sides on. So I'll go ahead and get mine on and show you the next stage. So I'm just sewing the last corner triangle on now. Take it out and press it, and then we'll just need to trim it again just to tidy up those little edges again. It should be pretty close to the right size. And it's looking pretty good. It's looking about the right size. I don't have the square large enough for this one here today, so I'm just going to trim up the sides. So I'm just laying it on my board and just trimming off, just straightening up those edges. It is, as I said, basically the right size, but we just want to square it up now, that's all. And it's mostly just taking those little rabbit ears off. Poor little rabbits. And you can check the size on your board and things. All the measurements are in the pattern, so that's all it needed, was just tidying up all those little edges, and we now have our internal part of our block ready made, and we just need to pop the framework on. So I've got my frame or my walls for my houses here, and I just need to put the sides on and then the top and the bottom. So I'll go ahead and do that and show you the finished block. So I've gone ahead and I've put all my frames on. I'm just pressing that last bit into the frame, and so that's block 13 done, so looking a whole lot like that other one that's up there. So that was it for block 13. Thank you so much. We'll see you again for Tasty Treats House Sampler block 14 next time.